My name's Scott Apgar. I work with SeaChange. I want to thank the Streaming Media East for having us here as a sponsor and letting me come up and practice my presentation techniques. Just kidding. I'm here to talk to you today about doing dynamic ad insertion into OTT material. So we'll cover a review of how linear video ad insertion happens today. How many people are familiar with the way ads are inserted in TV today? Negative. Well, one kind of. Okay, so be a little bit of a tutorial on the business flow, how it works. I'll talk about some of the existing limitations, even though it's a giant business making huge amounts of money. There are some limitations that make it difficult today. We'll review what can be done on linear OTT advertising and how that can happen, why it's better. And then finally, outline some reasons why it hasn't been adopted more quickly. So yesterday I was in a presentation and heard some statistics that last year there were 36 billion hours of ads streamed in television. There were 9 billion hours of ads streamed over OTT. So there's still a huge difference. The industry is still focused on TV ads. And why is that? Why isn't there more growth to the linear OTT insertion? And please stop me if you have questions. I much prefer it to be interactive. So let's talk a little bit about the business flow today for ad sales. This slide is intended to flow left from right if you're an advertiser, or from right to left if you're like SeaChange and you live down here on the sell side. This is where our customers are. So I'm going to start on the left, pretend I'm an advertiser. I'm Ford. I have the Ford Raptor truck. I want to get 1 million eyeballs on my new ad in the next month in order to increase sales. It can be anybody out there on the advertiser. It's called the buy side. They frequently are going to work with ad agencies to get their ads in place. If they're big enough, they might have their own team, but many times not. And you can see I've kind of divided this flow into separate portions. And right in the middle here, I'm going to get in the way once in a while, right in the middle here is the division between which buy and, anybody? Sell. All right, you're with me. From the buy and sell side. And this is the critical point, really, that we're talking about with OTT ads and where it's so different from regular linear television. So Ford wants to get eyeballs on their Raptor ads. They've contracted with some ad agencies on the buy side to make the creatives, actually film the commercials, and store the ads before they're sent out to the sell side. And when we cross that border over to the sell side, the SeaChange side, you see something called a campaign manager. This is software applications that are used to set up rules to determine how you're going to get 1 million eyeballs in a month on the Ford ad and on the pick your next favorite car BMW ad and or on Dove soap. Whatever is deemed by the campaign to be the most important, the rules are created here. It comes over to the delivery system, the publisher, sell side. SeaChange gear fits in here, and we finally play the ad out to what's commonly known as eyeballs. So these are our customers' clients, subscribers. So that's you and I sitting at home on the couch with the clicker, and we're flipping through channels. We're going to see eyeballs and see ads rather. And coming back after SeaChange or anyone on this sell side plays that ad out, importantly, we have to tell the world about it. So we have to flow back up the chain, tell these campaign managers who's counting the number of times they place the ads. They can get back to the ad agency and say, you wanted 1 million this month, we got you 1 million this month, therefore you owe us X. And what is X? You see along the bottom here something called CPM. So that's cost per milli. For every 1,000 eyeballs you put on an ad, you have to pay $24. This number varies widely between disciplines, but on average, maybe it's somewhere around there. And that $24 that Ford is paying for that 1,000 eyeballs on the ad gets split. That's why we have these swim lanes here. So the ad agency gets their portion. They did a lot of work. They created it. They figured out who would sell it for them. The ad tech stack gets a slice of that because they actually delivered it and then told you they delivered it. And out here, you get, from SeaChange's point of view, those are the people that own the eyeballs. They have the subscribers that are viewing the ad. So that's how that all gets split up. And those ratios vary widely depending on if you're negotiating with Spotlight, the gorilla, or you're negotiating with somebody much smaller, or you're doing all of the work, perhaps, all the way through the stack, or you're just doing a piece of it. It varies widely. It's negotiated deal to deal. Let's talk a little bit about the technical flow. And I'm from the engineering side, so I apologize if this is too much, but I'm very comfortable here. I feel better now. I got away from the business side. Now we're into the technical flow. This is kind of a pictorial diagram of how ad insertion happens, what happens when we do insert ads. At the top there, you see a satellite or some feed bringing in what's the national broadcast channel, ESPN. Same across the country. It comes into some device commonly known as a splicer or a mux that takes the linear feed in, and at certain explicit times, noted by pieces of the video in a PID called a Scuddy 35 marker, at these times, the splicer tells the ad manager system, for SeaChange we call that spot, hey, I've got an ad opportunity, play me the right ad. And it goes out to the traffic and billing system and says, it's ESPN, it's 10:35 on Wednesday, what do I play? And it gives an answer back. We stream that ad out, that's local ad 1, the splicer splices it, and in zone 1, the result is a local ad. You get about 13, 14 minutes of ads per hour, and about between 2 to 4 of those minutes are allocated to local ads, the rest are national ads. In the broadcast arena, because this is being pushed out, you get multiple zones. So if you're familiar with your cable subscription at home, you get different signal than the person in the town next door, perhaps. Or, for instance, to be more geographically correct, Boston, New York, Atlanta are all getting ESPN, and it's all a unique flavor of ESPN to that region. That's called a zone. Each of those gets a different local ad. Okay. What are some of the limitations for that model we just walked through? I talked about Boston, New York, Atlanta. The targeting for these ads, choosing that specific local ad, has to be done only on the delivery network. So there are copper wires or fiber wires running through your town, split up, and that's where the streaming network delivers video. That's the only way, not the only way, let me back up. That's a way that we are able to target local ads to your region. There are other techniques that allow you to store ads on the set-top box, and very complicated, but I'm not going to go into those. In general, you get to target only by your geographic network deployed region. We talked a little bit about a traffic and billing system and the campaign manager on the middle top side of that first slide. That's where you have somebody sitting at a desktop. They know they've got to put 1 million Ford Raptor ads in the schedule somewhere. They've got all the channels in front of them, and they're picking and choosing. I want to put Raptor here, Raptor here, Raptor here, Raptor here, and each of those schedule items for each channel creates a file that's fed to the ad insertion system. Manual, painful. People are used to it, and they're good at it, so this flow happens all the time. It's been going on for years, but you select those. It's hard to do that quickly, so you're selecting days ahead of time. What ads am I going to put in when? And then you're stuck with that. You can change it at the last minute. We always use reference to if a plane crash happens, you want to pull that Delta ad off as quick as you can and put something else in. You can do that up to an hour or two prior to air. But in general, it's done days in advance. I might do all my ad selections for the weekend today and get it all out of the way, and it runs all weekend, and Monday I start again. Other limitations, you've got to copy the Ford Raptor ad all around the nation, because when I showed you that picture with the zones and there was something called a streamer that played the local ad out, that has to be resident in each of the edge sites. So now I'm copying the Raptor ad nationwide. And it has to be local on that streamer before I can play it. If it's not, what happens? I lose revenue. I can't play it out. That ad slot is lost. If you remember the picture, the technical picture, there's a national ad underneath the local ad, so that ad will play. You don't get black to air, but you lose the revenue opportunity. So you have to copy everything system to system before you can schedule it and play it. We're also seeing many new ad formats, so MPEG-2, MPEG-4. It used to just be SD. Now we have HD, big deal. Now and then 4K we added. All of these different content types and combinations thereof require more processing, more time to create, and time to create means it's harder to get them onto all of the systems, which leads to revenue loss. The two biggest reasons for revenue loss in local ad insertion, lack of a creative and a no tone, which is something I won't go into, but I pointed to where in the national feed there were ad breaks. Sometimes those don't come through properly and you can't insert the ad. Those are the two biggest reasons. Let's get to revenue limitations. So advertising is all about money. Nobody likes advertising. The only reason we put up with it is because it makes money. So how do we charge in this world? The ad impressions are counted statistically, typically using Nielsen. You can't tell when somebody's watching a particular channel. You don't know if they got up to go to the bathroom or the kitchen. You don't know if the TV's just on all night. Fortunately, as of yet, there's no little camera peeking out in the audience saying, Dagmara's watching CNN. Good, I'm going to count that ad. So it's done statistically, and the industry accepts this. Nielsen have techniques to generate numbers where in your region, let's say it's 100,000 subscribers, they might have 1,000 subscribers that agreed to provide them data. They'll poll those subscribers and they'll say, okay, out of the 1,400 watch CNN at noon, I've got 100,000 in my region, so if you do the math, how many eyeballs? Okay. 40,000? Is that right?
Well, you've got 2 eyeballs.
2 eyeballs. Oh, I got to double it. Good call. I like that. Good call. So then you can bill for that many impressions, statistically. And the industry accepts that. Other limitations, we all know that the cable cutting and the industry is moving towards OTT streaming, away from broadcast streaming. Oh no, another diagram. Again, back to my comfort zone, linear OTT, how is it different from what we just went through with linear broadcast? Linear broadcast back up at the top, showing you the same thing I showed you before. And down below, we have how it's done in OTT. So if I can block some of the screen, over here you see this picture with chunks of video. So as that ESPN feed is coming in, it's also fed to transcoders and packagers they're creating constantly files on the CDN, or the origin server.
A lot of people are taking pictures of your slides, which is great. Is this presentation going to be available for
Yep.
download after?
Yeah, it's public up on the website, so you can just download it. I thought they were taking pictures of me. Let's see, where was I? So this is written to the origin server, and inside this file, there are a bunch of video chunks, lives a representation of that marker, that all-important marker I talked about before is in here. So now, instead of pushing it out to set-top boxes, you have clients. Somebody's on their phone, their iPad, their laptop, whatever it is, smart TV, and it's connecting directly and asking to watch ESPN OTT. This is huge. Now I know exactly who's watching the channel. I'm not guessing. I know you asked to see it, and I know when I delivered it. So when client 1 says, I want to watch ESPN, I can tell inside my ad system what client 1 likes. That's a male, 55 years old, who lives in Chicago. I'm going to show him this ad. That's a female, 24 years old, lives in Boston, this ad, etc. You can use target groups to decide which ad you're going to place. And there's some technical mumbo-jumbo that happens in there. I'm happy to go through that later with you if you like, where we present out to the client now different targeted local ads specific to the client, and they're pulling them. It's not being pushed out to them. Critical difference. How am I doing for time? Okay. So, just to review that technical picture, the content is delivered directly to specific users. This is the big win here. It's not multicast out like in broadcast television. And you noticed, or maybe you didn't, because I said it was technical mumbo-jumbo, but the ad placement decision happens right then and there. You don't have somebody days ahead of time saying, oh, that slot on CNN at noon is going to hold the Ford Raptor ad. Instead, when we encounter that mark in the file, we make a call out to that campaign manager who's programmatically deciding, oh, this is CNN at noon on Wednesday. I'm going to play the Ford Raptor ad because it's Scott, and I know he wants a new truck. So that happens dynamically. That makes it easier to change. You don't have to do it days ahead of time. And frankly, makes it easier to meet your campaign goals. You've got 1 million ads you have to place. You've only got 400,000 and there's a week left in the month. You can change your campaign rules. You can widen your target groups to start dumping more ads and capture more eyeballs properly. Again, because it's specific users, we can do personalized targeting. And you can do that not just at subscriber level, but at the device level. So assuming you can get this information, I can be watching it on the main screen, something. My son can be watching it on his iPad in the basement, and it's possible to tell the difference. So I get the Ford Raptor ad, he gets the Ford Pinto ad. So, you know, it's a different target group altogether, and you're able to distinguish that within the same household even, down to the device level. We talked about Nielsen's statistics and how the industry accepts that it's just a statistical measure. With OTT ads, because we know exactly who you are and when we place the ad, we can measure it directly. It's called impression-based, not spot-based. So for each impression we deliver, we can count. Instead of saying, 1,000 people in the region watch CNN, you've got how many? 400,000 subscribers? Or I might have mixed those numbers up because you confused me with the 2 eyeballs. But you get the idea. Now I'm measuring directly. I'm not just guessing. And I can report back those direct measures. The advertisers are very happy with that. That gives them much more of a comfortable feeling that they're getting what they paid for. Creatives are the creatives are located typically on that origin server. So you're not responsible to copy things all around the network, and you don't wind up generally with video conflicts because you missed that one streamer in Tennessee, or you missed it in another region, it's generally available and gets pulled by the client, and there are CDN, edge cache architectures all over the place now that take care of that for you. So, all that said, all those benefits, how come OTT ad insertion is moving kind of slowly? What we heard early on, I said 36 billion, 9 billion. Why is that? Why isn't it ramping up more quickly? You get better CPMs with targeting. I'm willing to pay you more if I know I'm getting the right ad as opposed to someone else. But privacy information concerns are big, and it's not yet worked out to the extent that people are comfortable with it. So getting those target groups is difficult. You have what's called walled gardens. Who are those? Anyone know that term? No? Facebook, yep. Sometimes they call Facebook, Google, Amazon. People that have large amounts of data but aren't sharing it. They're keeping it for their benefit. You can't get it for that reason, and you can use your own data, but you better be very careful not to put my age out on the internet, or my phone number, or my email address in some kind of target criteria in the clear. So you've got to encrypt it, make it a GUID, and on the other end, when the campaign manager gets this big long GUID, they have to know how to decrypt it, turn it into the fact that it's me, and give me the right ad. I mentioned earlier that the CDN helps propagation of creatives. That's true. However, now we're talking about all of the different content types, HLS, Dash, Smooth. You're talking about different devices. I left my phone over there, but from 4K smart TVs all the way down to 3G mobile phones, you need the right profile for that ad. You can't download an HD ad on a 3G phone without getting the spinning circle of death, and nobody wants that. So you're creating tens of profiles for each ad. That requires mature content management systems. They're expensive and difficult to use. That's a barrier. So existing equipment is or was expensive, and when you spent millions of dollars on your existing equipment, you want to get some ROI back. So you're not giving it up anytime soon. You're going to milk that until you can't anymore. That's also a barrier to entry. And what you may have heard in some of the sessions here this week is that the new ad sales model for OTT ad sales, it's confusing. There are so many options. People are very comfortable with that top line in the last slide, that linear broadcast. They know how to use the traffic and billing. They have teams that have been doing it for 25 years. It's just rolling. On the new ad sales model, it's not that smooth yet. It's difficult. Is it direct sales? Is it private? Is it open? Is it programmatic? So all of that means that it's hard for people to adopt it, and there's kind of a fear of adoption. They're moving slow. They want to see it smoothed out. There were lots of questions in a seminar yesterday about what's the difference? How do I tell? What do I use? So until that all is better understood by both the ad agencies and the publisher side, it's not going to be adopted as quickly. And of course, we know, again, cable cutting's driving the industry towards using this OTT model. Ta-da, done. Any questions, anything you'd like me to review there, or better yet, comments from the audience on why you think it might be, what some of the barriers might be, why it's hard to adopt this model?
Your last diagram, what are the boxes that SeaChange does versus what maybe your partners do?
Sure. So specifically, SeaChange plays in the control plane of ad insertion, not the data plane. So we're not doing the CDN and origin servers, and we aren't doing yet transcoders, so we're getting there. We're doing control plane logic that helps the transcoder identify where the marks are, how long they are, how many ads are in it. We do the ADS, we do the manifest manipulator. We have clients And we have, this is kind of our bread and butter, the ad manager spot on the advertising side, the ad manager spot, and the streamers and splicers. So we have all of that play.
Do you have a feeling for client-side versus server-side ad insertion?
Yes.
In the market?
So it's been moving. It started client-side because that's easier, if you will. Moving to server-side for a couple of reasons. Ad blocking software is very effective on the client. It's not effective on the server because the server, you can't watch that. It's going out and you can't block that. So ad blocking is leading things to going server-side. There's also, I talked about that spinning disk. When you get the wrong ad format and wait for it to load, the user experience on the client side can suffer for that reason, because when you get an ad decision returned back, you're getting a list of all the possible profile ads, and you need to select one. If you don't know how to select it properly, you get the wrong profile, you waste time. And the server side knows that. So they give you back the proper profile.
But are people successful at server-side?
People are successful at server side. Some of the limitations on server side are it's harder to count impressions. On the client side, the client can tell exactly when the player played that video. On the server side, we're giving you that video every 3 seconds, so we can get down to a 3-second chunk, but we don't know where in that 3 seconds you are or whether you paused and watched any of it. So the granularity of impression count's a little better on the client side. That's changing as the server side matures a little more.
But advertisers are accepting that reporting.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they accepted Nielsen, where, you know, it was a statistical eyeball. That was the best they could get. This is much better.
Are you working with any broadcasters on their OTT efforts, or is it still traditionally, you know, the cable networks as they move, like ESPN, as they move into OTT?
Yeah, we work with anyone on their OTT efforts. Our SeaChange ad insertion gear can be with anyone. You can walk by our booth out there and I can talk you through what we call our framework offer, but it applies to broadcasters, it applies to streaming, new streaming services, telcos, MVPDs, all of the above.
Yeah, just, are you working with any broadcast groups on any of their OTT platforms?
Such as, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Well, I mean, there are some people like, you know, Tegna and Sinclair who have been very vocal about what they're doing. You know, they actually have businesses that are trying to hit smart TVs with OTT services.
Okay, we're not yet working with any of those broadcasters, yeah. Anything else? Thank you very much for your time.